Call this meeting to order on December 18, 2023. All right, roll call.
Navarra,
Here.
Travis,
Here.
Boersma, Shimon Rogers,
Here.
Johnson,
Here.
Shaw,
Here.
Lopez Caniva,
Here. All right,
Osei,
Here.
and Alfonso.
Here.
all right. Okay, we'll start with our pledge of allegiance. And if Ms. Osei and Ms. Del Ponte, if you want to lead us, please.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I hereby open this public meeting at 7:02 p.m. to receive public comments concerning the proposed property tax levy increase for Lockport Township High School District 205 for tax year 2023. A designated portion of the board meeting is set aside to hear comments from the public. A person wishing to speak must sign in and provide all information requested on the sign-in sheet, including the agenda item they will be addressing. The board president will call speakers up by name, announcing their time to comment. A time limit of 5 minutes per speaker per agenda topic will be imposed. The purpose of requesting such information on the sign-in sheet is to obtain the correct spelling of the name of the speaker and contact information, which will be used for any necessary board follow-up. Public comments are important to the board. However, it is customary not to respond to issues until time has been taken to gather information and discuss all options. A lack of action or response does not imply a lack of interest in the issues brought to the board. Every time a board member of the public speaks during public comments, the superintendent or appropriate district administrator will contact that individual on behalf of the Board of Education the following day to discuss their concerns. Should I just hold based on all of these or just on the public? Okay.
Was there a separate sheet for the hearing?
This is the tax levy one, yes.
Okay, yeah, there is. Okay. All right, first we have a Miss Tammy Hayes.
Okay, good evening, board members. There's a packet going around. Last couple times I've been here, I've brought a packet. So we hear a lot of talk about cash revenues and fund balances and how an unforeseen event, such as the ceiling collapse, will have the district spending cash reserves and put the district in peril. The tax payments come in June and September. Beginning in October, the district spends down its cash revenues until the new taxes come in the following May and June. So 7 or 8 months without significant revenue. The district's average monthly budget expenses is about 6.5 million. So 50 to 55 million to be spent while awaiting the first installment of tax payments. The first page is a graph of the district's cash reserves of the last fiscal year. You can see this red line that goes straight across. I've handed this one out before. It's $55 million. The actual average monthly expenses based on the audit report was $6.4 million. The red line is the amount of cash reserves the district had before its first tax payment, about $55 million. So let's get some perspective on this. The central ceiling repair may cost $2.7 million. You could pay for 20 ceiling repairs with that cash reserves. The year's capital projects budget is $4.6 million. You could pay for 11 years of capital projects at this level. The use of Lincoln Way North is an estimated $1 million for 4 months. You could pay for 18 years of Lincoln Way North with the district's cash reserves. Looking at this, the district has plenty of cash reserves to cover the next unforeseen event. If anyone in the public tells you that they want you to spend all of your cash reserves, or you're going to spend all of your cash reserves on your next breakdown, that is the last person you should be taking financial advice from. Dr. McBride has been telling the board how a reduction in the levy will result in deficit spending. Deficit spending must be a bad thing and avoided at all costs, right? If we define deficit spending as your expenditures exceeding your revenue, anyone suggesting that is steering the district down a bad path, leading to major problems, correct? Every year, Ms. Croy and Dr. McBride prepare the budgets and recommend the board pass them, which the board does. The board has 4 individuals who have been on the board since 2019. If you look at pages 2 through 4, 3 years prior of budgets, 21, 22, and 23. Look at the amounts circled in the bottom right. Those are negative numbers and are the results of expenditures exceeding revenue, deficit spending, as I just defined. It doesn't matter that you don't respond during public comment, but if I asked, no one here would raise their hand that they voted against these budgets. It's not all doom and gloom. Deficit spending, as I just defined, it sounds like that is an unbalanced budget. Luckily, the state looks at it differently. Page 5 is from the budget form submitted to the state. Even though your expenditures exceed your revenues, the state considers the budget balanced and only looks at operating funds. And the state does not consider funds transfers either. So how did we do? 3 years of deficit spending, how did it impact the district's cash reserves? On page 6, you'll see the latest financial projection from your board packet shows those 3 years of deficit spending helped produce an increase, yes, an increase of $20 million to your cash reserves. Tonight, the board is asked to make an informed decision and pass the annual levy and offer tax relief via an abatement or a portion of the levy. In making an informed decision on the recommendations of the superintendent, shouldn't the board be given the information of options beside what the administration chose to present? What am I talking about? At the October 2nd finance meeting, the board agenda presented an abatement option of $2.9 million. Then for the meeting, the amount was dropped to 1.4 due to legal limitations. It took 3 more meetings for the board before the board was informed that a rebate option was possible, and that was only after a board member asked about it. How could the board decide an abatement that was the best option and when the rebate option was never even presented? While the $2.9 million tax relief isn't available under the abatement process, it is under the rebate process. The $2.9 million amount must have been acceptable, otherwise it would have never been proposed in the first place. If the option is to abate $1.4 million or rebate $2.9 million, or even a higher amount, what do you think the community would say? At these meetings, Mr. Navarro frequently mentions listening to the community. As he mentions it often, I was elected and we need to talk to our community. Mr. Navarro gets it. I hope the rest of you get it too. Thank you.
All right, next we have a Mr. Shalou. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. Jim?
Yes.
Sal-
I got sloppy handwriting. Good evening, board. Well, last time I was here was right around Christmas time. And like I said before, you guys are the gift that keeps on giving, right? And it's always about tax season, tax levies. I made a lot of promises last time I was here, and I'm not gonna make promises again this time, but I do see there are 2 new faces, so that's good. What I can see from this graph here is you start out with 70-something million dollars, you end up with $77 million, and each and every year you have a $5 million surplus, okay? And that doesn't go back to the taxpayer. I don't know what happens with that. But what I really want to talk about is the impact that these high taxes are having on the community, okay? On a personal note, I have no more siblings left here in Illinois. My sister saw her tax bill last year, $12,500, and decided, you know what, I can't afford this anymore. So she now lives in Florida. So if I gonna see her, I gotta go to Florida, which I guess isn't too bad. What's really bugging me though is the people that live on fixed incomes are really struggling, okay? And every single year their taxes go up just like everybody else's. And you know, the people in Crest Hill, Lockport, even Homer Glen, they live on fixed incomes. They don't really know what to do. I talk to them a lot because I run a retirement community that houses about 32 people. And each and every one of them I talk to are like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. But it's not just the families who are leaving, it's also the families who are affected by that, like me, right? So when these people leave, they're left, I mean, there's like a big hole. So when we have Christmas and nobody's there, they're all running away, you know, because their home values are being destroyed. What I don't hear is a talk about how we can do this without going to the taxpayer, okay? I don't want to talk about how the roof collapsed and what we could have done before that, or all the money that we had to fix it before it happened, okay? But there's really no talk. Every time there's a problem, the taxpayer is the first one looked at and the last one considered, okay? There's no consideration to the parents at these meetings. There's really no consideration to the taxpayer at all. What I don't hear is talk about properties that can be liquidated to pay for this, okay? I don't hear talk about the central campus maybe being sold because, I mean, really, a 120-year-old building, you're gonna try to save that or knock it down and build another building there with no parking. The East Campus has plenty of room to build a freshman center on, okay? I don't hear talk about liquidating properties in Homer Glen that is owned by the district, okay, to pay for some of this. Okay, it's like every single year, it goes right to the taxpayer. And what are we getting? I mean, what are we getting? My kids both went here. They got a wonderful, mediocre education. They're doing fine. I mean, let's face it, it's not Francis Parker over here. But we're paying for it like it is. 75% of the taxes, right, go to the school districts. So when these people look at their bills, they can't really go to the village or go to the township and say, hey, what are you doing to me? You know, it's always the school districts. It's always the school districts, every single year. So,
30 seconds remaining.
thank you. The taxpayer really is struggling, okay? People are struggling, and it really needs to come down to remembering all your names, okay, and changing it at the voting booth when this comes up again. And that's what's gonna happen. Thank you.
Okay, next we have a Mr. Jay Rhodey.
Handouts. I'll pass them out because I'll have enough time. And okay, so, I think I spoke last time at September 18th when the levy was first being discussed. And my concern, and it's still my concern, and I have sent emails right after that meeting. Bob did answer the email, going back and forth, and I'm assuming that the school board saw the emails as well. I know that Bob speaks for you guys and you've given him that opportunity, but I just want you to know, as school board members, I've been coming here quite a while. I feel very comfortable speaking in front of everybody here, and I hope that you feel very comfortable speaking to me too, because I think we've all had conversations at one point in time. So if I have anything that brings up questions, please feel free to give me a call and we can talk about it and walk through it. What I want you guys to look at on page 1 here, and it's the capital projects. It's the $4.6 million roughly for capital projects that seem to be added to the levy amount. Okay, now we have talked as of 2022, and I know you guys are getting used to stuff here. But 2022, these capital projects are usually paid out of our fund balances. Okay, it was talked about, and we save for 20 years, and hey, this is, when we have to spend it, we have to spend it. But when you look at our fund balance as of July 1st, 2023, it's going to be in the lower column, the first highlighted number on your right-hand side. You got $76 million. Now, when you look at the fund balance that is projected for June 30th of 2024, you've roughly got the same amount. So how is it possible to pay $4.6 million for capital projects that we've saved for and end up with the same fund balance? Because it's impossible, okay? So, a couple of things. Either A, this $4.6 million that is added in our total of our levy shouldn't be in that section. Tell me that you guys want to increase your operating surplus, and that's where it's going. Maybe it is so. It doesn't mean I have to agree with it, okay? Tell me that you're spending $4.6 million and that you need that money because you are going to divide it equally and give every teacher in the school district a raise, okay? But apparently right now we have to go off of capital projects. Now, something that was brought up at one of the meetings, and Stephanie had brought it up, and something that I didn't know about, and we've all looked into it, this abatement. Now, the abatement, if we were gonna say, okay, the levy's been approved at your $76 million, abatement allows you a cap of like $1.4 million to go back to the taxpayers. But the problem with abatement is, and from last year's meeting, right around the same time, there was an individual that came up here and said, hey, I got my money's worth out. I believe it was Angela Adolph's husband. Angela, I don't think is here, but said that he feels the taxes are well worth it. His kid got a full ride to college, and he said it's not a problem. Well, when you abate the money, you are giving that money back to every taxpayer, which means some taxpayers may be fine with the tax installment, okay? But now the rebate's what we gotta look at, because the rebate doesn't have a cap. The rebate, you could rebate now, because you already got the budget approved, so it doesn't affect your budget going into next year when you're setting that, because you're not messing yourself up, so to say. But if you look at the rebate option, you could do the full $4.6 million to the taxpayer, and the beauty of it here is someone like Mr. Adolph doesn't have to apply for it because it's not automatic. The taxpayer has to apply for it. So those taxpayers that feel, hey, I'm not overtaxed, I'm fine with the tax increase from the school, they can leave it there, okay? The people that are on harder incomes or on harder times, they can apply for the rebate and get it. So chances are, in all essence, if you guys go that route, you're probably not going to refund the full 4.6. At least I know one individual that probably won't, apply for it. But with that being said, look at the numbers and then look at the graph on page 2. And the graph on page 2, I think, Stephanie, this was something you provided. You look at that red, okay, you look at the red line. The red line represents where our fund balance would be at 2029 in the event that you only did the abatement. Now, the green line that we came up with it would be where your fund balance would be if you did the full one-time $4.6 million rebate. We're still going up. You guys, the money's still there, and you're still at that $72 million mark by 2029, because then what that does, you take that, okay. Thank you very much. God bless. Merry Christmas to everybody.
All right, I hereby close this public hearing at 7:21 PM. All have no resolutions, and we're going on to our student reports.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Josh, do you want to start it with the Christmas?
Yeah, I'll start. I'm Josh, and I'm talking about the cookie decorating. And we basically, everybody got like 4 cookies to start with, and they would decorate it, and they could bring their friends, and this was available to everybody. We had it in the 1 of 7 rooms, and while people were decorating their cookies, we watched Elf. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, we were all there, right? Yeah, we were all there. It was really fun. I think it was a great event. We had about 60 kids there, and like 400 cookies. So everyone got to decorate a lot. So it was really fun. You guys have anything to add?
It's a good event.
So next we're going to talk about kind of like our experience and my experience with AP classes and then like getting ready for finals. So September 1st of your junior year, you can commit to play in college. And this September, I committed to play lacrosse at Vanderbilt. So this was last weekend, we went to Nashville, and I was able to meet some other girls in my class. And it was really cool, and we were talking about our schedules. And a lot of them were like just saying like what classes they were able to take. And I was talking about like my junior year with 4 AP classes. And I thought it was interesting that a lot of them were shocked by my schedule and being able to take 4 AP classes. And by the end of this year, I will have taken 8 and will have college credit. And they were all really shocked by it. And I thought it was really cool that we're able to take so many classes here. But they go to private schools and public schools across the East Coast, and a lot of them aren't able to take AP classes until their junior year. If they are, they're only able to take 2. So this like has been a great experience for me at Lockport. And my sister too was here 2 years ago. She went to Notre Dame, and the same thing, like where Lockport has just given her so many opportunities to take AP classes and to get the college credit. So that was awesome for me, and I've like kind of followed her class schedule, and everything's been going great for me. It is a very like rigorous course load, especially coming down to finals, but I think I've managed it pretty well this year, and I really like everything we have here at Lockport. So.
I know personally this year, like recently, the past couple months have been really the most stressful of my high school career so far, and it's not, I wouldn't say the difficulty of the courses, just more of junior year and really like looking at colleges, and it's just really all like kicking in right now. And it's just a lot of stress, and I feel like a lot of my peers feel the exact same way. They just a lot of stress right now, especially with the junior year and everything. And I feel like I just want to really do well because of my peers, like everyone here. It's just really good examples. It makes me want to like do well in school. Yep, that's what's going on with me right now.
I'm also in a couple of AP classes, not as many as Gianna, but they're still really stressful, but they're a great opportunity. And I've also started the scholarship process as a senior, which can also be stressful. So I'm looking forward to it, though.
Are there any questions?
So, some of you say that the classes are stressful. What, if anything, can we do to help you with your stress?
Something that's really helped me is just like the tutoring and the Compass. I think Compass is like the best thing ever. I use my Compass every single day. So that's really helped me, just going to see my teachers and getting the extra time. Honestly, I don't know if there's anything else like to add for me personally, but like I know a lot of kids use the kitchen table after school. But yeah, all their resources I think are great. Like Compass is so helpful. I love Compass.
Yeah, I really want to make a point on that. Compass is like really, really, really helps me. I'm like signed up for a different class every single day. Even if I'm not struggling in the class, it's just like maybe I have a test the next day, and it's really helped me. So really enjoy Compass for sure.
So-
You feel it's stressful because you're in the AP class, or is
I'd say, yeah,
the rigor or the load or what?
yeah.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I feel like it's all like depends on kind of where you're at and like your interest in the class and just like how engaged you are. So yeah, but the AP classes are definitely, I would say, a little bit more rigorous with the course load.
Do they allow you to have other extracurricular activity? Yes, no?
At the beginning of the year, a lot of teachers I had said that like if you needed an extension for any like extra like things you're in, you can ask for that ahead of time. Like if I was in a bunch of clubs and like I couldn't get my homework done, if I asked ahead of time, I would be able to get extra time. So I feel like they do make it pretty like available to you to be involved in the school.
I won't stress you no more.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Good luck
Good
at your
luck.
test. You know, you did great.
EFT report.
Good evening, everyone. Happy holidays to everyone. First wanted to send a thank you to Christine and Tony and all the support staff who made everyone in this district feel extra special this past week. So just wanted to make sure I acknowledge them. Just as the students feel stressful, this is an exciting time, but you know, finals week is always a lot on everybody's plate. But I think everyone is ready for a nice long break to, reset. So other than that, we're looking forward to our union party Wednesday at 1:15, and hope everyone has a happy new year. So thank you.
IESB governing board report.
As far as I know of, I don't think there's anything coming up. The only thing I know of is, I think February, they're gonna try to have the legislative, forum again. That would be nice if we could attend. I don't know if it's gonna be down at the Renaissance or where it's gonna be, but I heard that they were talking about it, so.
All right, thank you. All right, foundation board report.
We have a guest star, Angela Adolph is not with us tonight, but this fine business owner, he'll introduce himself, but one of our foundation board members, so thanks for being here, Paul.
Hello, everyone.
Hello?
My name's Paul. I've been on the foundation board for maybe like 3.5 years now. So I just have a few quick things to go over, just kind of like recapping our year and also the last month and what we have to look forward to. So just kind of what we did over the past month, December 8th through 10th, I'm sure a lot of you saw this. We hosted over 1,000 community members at our East Campus Auditorium to enjoy the Nutcracker. We want to thank the Dance Theater of Will County. They did an awesome job mixing like local talent with professional dancers to present the ballet. And it is our hope that we can actually make this a yearly tradition. Santa Claus came to Lockport as well on the 9th, and we always host that for our staff and their families. They were treated a hot cocoa cookies. Children were encouraged to write Santa a letter, and they will get a letter back from Santa. We heard that from the big guy. Every child got a gift, and everyone was able to get a picture with Santa and their family. Scholarship applications are now open for students to apply to. All foundation managed scholarship applications are due on Friday, April 5th, which is the Friday after spring break. Every Lockport Township High School graduating senior qualifies for these scholarships. So every student should really apply to them. They're pretty simple to apply to. There's nothing too crazy they have to do. And there's scholarships for trade schools, junior colleges, as well as four-year universities and colleges. Our second annual casino night will be taking place on January 26, 2024. This event will be held at Mistwood. We did it last year, it was a lot of fun, so if you didn't come, you should all try to make a point to come. And our next meeting that we're gonna be having is January 9th at 4 o'clock in this very room. So just a quick little rundown of the past year. We just completed our annual audit and filed our taxes, and with that, we were able to kind of get all of our final numbers. This year, we raised $107,000, which is a 161% increase from the previous year, so the board and all the members put in a lot of work. We gave away $78,000 in scholarships this past year and grants, which was comparable to only $54,000 the previous year, so another big increase there. As a board, we feel like we're truly living out the mission of the foundation and working to enrich the lives of the students, staff, and community members by hosting these fun events. We were also, one other thing, able to support the freshmen and central staff members with T-shirts and school decorations. So when they all went to North, we made sure everyone got a T-shirt, and I know that some of the board members and a few other volunteers helped decorate the hallways and stuff like that. By doing that and just like the positive press that we got and just the word going around, we actually got 3 more donors reaching out right after that, willing to donate and put money towards scholarships and stuff like that. So that's money that we spent that we got immediately back from the community. And of course, we couldn't do anything without the support of our community and everyone here in this room. So we want to thank you guys. And just like my personal thing is, like I said, I got on the board about 3.5 years ago. Didn't really know what I was getting myself into. The first 6 months of meetings, I was just sitting there like, what are they even talking about? I didn't really know what was happening. But over the past year or two, we really made a mission to get our name out there a little bit more and kind of be more involved in the community, not just do things that are like fundraisers and things like that to give away scholarships, but also to host events for the people who don't maybe have students in the school or whatever. So I feel like we really did that. We have a pretty good name right now going around the community. I obviously own a local business in town, and I hear all the feedback from everybody that comes in, and it's all been pretty positive. So thank you. That's all I got. Do I ask if anyone has questions?
Plug your business.
I don't want to do that. This is school board meetings, Zion.
No advertising, right?
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. All right. Let's see. Legislative report.
I really have no legislative report this month, but I do have listed just for the public and the board, and if you'd like me to open each one of these and read them, but these are all of the bills that will start on January 1st that have school impact. A number of them are, really amazing how far, one at the top, schools shall maintain the supply of opioid reversal agents. Well, Dr. Huntington led that well over a year ago in terms of training and that availability. So many of these, it just feels like we're well ahead of these. And so they're all listed there to see what kind of regulations will start on New Year's Day that we face, and I feel like we're policy-wise, practice-wise in very good shape. They range from library books to investigations to licensure endorsements, but they are all listed there for anyone, and the link, the blue, clicks on the actual bill itself.
All right, public comment follow-up from November 20th, 2023.
You bet. And I'm also going to include, I've got just a companion, I don't usually do this, but I thought some visuals were very much worth it. And what I'm going to try to do is take public comment November 20th, the board meeting, December 11th, finance and facilities. Obviously, we had 2 public speakers. I'll just take Audrey Manley and then Tim Russ, who's in the audience, who spoke last month. I had a chance to follow up with them. They're both very passionate about the bond referendum that the board has put on the ballot March 19th, and looking for as much information as they can get from us, about that process. I directed them to the website. I'll probably open up our public website on Central at some time. The remainder of all of our public comments have been You know, a lot like the budget, the levy hearing, just this evening, they've had to do with the very, very important work and the very important civic work and the very democratic work that you do at the ground level. You know, school boards, I always say, are government you can talk to. You're available, you're accessible, you're here, you respond. One thing that I would say, I want to keep this graphic up, but I think there's something that I would say to some of our public commenters that I just think is so core to what we do as democracy. And the core of that is face-to-face conversation. Facebook, email, 5 minutes at a public comment are never going to really explain the accounting procedures, the fund transfers, that balance a budget, that get into these really serious issues. And I hope, you know, every single public commenter that I ever interact with, the invitation is there to come into my office, to meet with Stephanie Coy and ourselves face-to-face, to meet with some of you, because if it's not over, you know, really 3 of you, we can do that. And we stand by that. But I can't say in the past year and a half that some of our public commenters have ever taken me up on that invitation. And I just think so much is at stake that without face-to-face work, we're not going to have a better understanding. And you know, there's been so much, please listen to the community, and that's where the deep listening occurs. That is where it occurs, and that's a sincere invitation. It's not a disingenuous invitation. And I hope to see that. I hope you see that so that you can join us. And you can really dig in and you can talk about how fund transfers in and fund transfers out and how you have to approve those anytime we do fund transfers, help to balance a budget and how that's working. It's complex stuff that email, Facebook, in 5 minutes in a board meeting just can't do. And I always think that the most precious thing people can give is your time. And I certainly know you're willing to give it. You know, my good colleague Stephanie Croy is willing to give it, and I'm willing to give it. Just a couple general things I think that is important. I think we have to say just a few things I would drape over all of this is how are schools funded in the state of Illinois. One of the first things the state of Illinois decided when it became a state was that property taxpayers would pay for schools. Now, other states decided other things. Wisconsin pays through income tax. Everybody who earns income in Wisconsin is paid through income tax. Illinois, it's property tax. And it is true. It is on the property owners to fund schools because the state has set it up that way. It has decided, and legislation would have to undecide that if it went to something like income tax, to go a different route. But it is funded through property taxes. So anybody who gets a tax bill and says, wow, 75% of this goes to schools, they're 100% right. They're not wrong. That is how most schools are funded. In this particular school, the wealth in our community, we don't qualify for enough grants that could offset what our property tax payers. They pay 85% of those taxes. I think that's just important to remember. You are in a system as board members, you'll enact it tonight, that has been set up for you, that you have received historically. I also think it's very important, and this isn't, you know, we have colleagues who are assessors at the county level, the township level, but I certainly hope that those folks that are upset about taxes are speaking to those assessors, because in the end of the day, you have had a declining tax rate over the past 12 years. You're the lowest tax rate out of 17 comparable township high schools. But that doesn't really matter to lots of people's bottom line if their property values go up. And that's always a conundrum as a property owner, isn't it? Your values go up, your taxes go up, even if the rate goes down. So I just think that has to be acknowledged, and I certainly hope not to put pressure on my colleagues in government in townships or Will County, but they are making the decisions that raise the assessed value of homes and drive the ultimate, you know, check that you are going to write. Abatement and rebate. Mr. Rohde, I just had a really quick glance, and I think it's a very nice comparative side by side of the difference between an abatement and rebate. But I've been curious about that because we've heard different things. We've heard people need relief now, and you've acted with an abatement. which does that now for everyone. But then we've heard rebate, which you have to pay your taxes, wait a year, and you only receive it if you apply. So I'm trying to sort out, as I get these public comments and you deal with these public comments, you're going down a path over the next few years where you want to slowly abate back, provide gradual relief for every taxpayer this spring, versus waiting a whole year where it's only if you apply. The seniors I talk to sometimes don't apply for their senior exemption, sometimes don't apply for the senior freeze. Certainly people who might not be as savvy generally don't apply. So who does a rebate benefit if it's a year later? So I'm trying to figure out, is this an urgent crisis or is this a crisis that can wait a year in rebate? It's been confusing to me, really to be honest. So, we responded to a question. I guess I want to make it clear because this has come up a number of times. We responded to a question on October 2nd, which was a supposal. If you look at rebates, they're primarily municipal. We are having a hard time finding a school district, a township high school district like us, that has used a rebate. And there's real reasons why that is. But no one here has proposed that. The board hasn't requested it. And on October 2nd, you had 4 options in front of you. We even entertained a 5th that did come from the public and asked you for direction on which way to go. And you gave 2 options that you wanted to hear more about. And we followed that. We followed that direction. You've spent 6 total meetings this fall really diving deep since September 18th. So I know you put the muscle in to working through all of these issues. I want to just kind of leave this up here because I think what's been kind of hanging about is just a question about value. And I think this supplies a context. So we had a parent group that compared us to all of those districts, but compared SAT scores. And the purpose of their comparison is that our SAT scores are lower than all of those districts. Fair enough. The demographics aren't the same. The economics aren't the same, but fair enough. That's a data point. But let's bring the financials in as well. Let's tell the whole story. Interesting enough, you've really, as a board, stressed college and career readiness. You've stressed dual credit, advanced placement. You sort of said your kids are more than a score. We have a student board member who's going to Wilco. That'll never be measured on an SAT test. So if we bring all this in, I think it really tells a tale about your finances in an aggregate. All of those districts, their adequacy rate, which is when the state says, here's what you need to be at 100% to fund everything that we believe you need to fund. Some of those districts are 200%, 55%, 20%, 14% above the adequacy rate. We're 16% below the adequacy rate. We're the only single township high school below the adequacy rate. Per pupil expenditures, we're the lowest per pupil expenditure of those comparison schools. Annual spending, we're not the lowest, but the only school that's lower than us has 1,400 students less than us. But yet, when the state of Illinois looks at all the metrics that come into a rating, graduation rate, college and career readiness, students on track, we all have the same rating. So it's just hard for me to understand how we're not financially efficient or having a return on investment, just as a general proposition. So I hope we did further, we had 2 comments, a $2.9 million abatement. In the process, we went through, we can't abate that much because an abatement has to be a debt service abatement. We don't, right now, we have such low debt in the district, we don't pay $2.9 million a year in debt service. Yeah, Mr. Navarro.
How do you even measure past 100% adequacy? Are they scoring?
No, that's a financial measure. It's not a score.
Oh, adequacy?
So they're collecting in revenue and spending 200% almost, like if you look at New Trier, beyond what the state says that they need. We're spending 16% below. So the only academic piece there is to the far right. So everything else is all purely financial.
So I just wanted to share that as a wrap-up. We've shared with the board, just to recap, $4.6 million, that's a transfer in, that's a transfer out. If you drop that out of your budget, not only, we'll pass this out in a moment, your annual audit, not only would you have a finding that you improperly reported your budget, but you would lower your levy base. And we've illustrated that that lowers it in a permanent way. So I think that's important. I reached out to Mr. O'Lear, who spoke about his concern about his tenants, and you probably saw my email, and hope to do some face-to-face time with him. But that was a conundrum myself. Mr. O'Lear said his tenants need immediate relief, but he supported a rebate, which would not be until 2025. So that is for me, I don't know for you, that is confusing to me. I reached out to Mrs. Jennifer Consolino, and I want to read something because it's one of the more difficult things that I've had to work through. And again, asking to meet face-to-face. But Mrs. Consolino said that we, schools, have raised property taxes 979%. So I just want to, anybody in here who has property taxes that you pay, I want you to imagine timesing them by 9 if that's ever happened in your lifetime. So I was very curious. I really wanted to know. And I received a response that her metric was one piece of property. For the 2021 levy, now I'm reading, when the parcel was assessed, it was a vacant lot. The taxes were $842. Upon completion of a house, the newly assessed property now paid $9,000 in the 2022 levy. The 2021 to 2022 increase was 979%. I just don't find anything outrageous about that. I think it's commonsensical to really everyone in this room that if you put a home on a vacant piece of property, the taxes will be greater than a vacant piece of property. I also think Mrs. Consolino has really taken us up on what she believes is our miscalculation of new property. I think that's a great illustration of how new property comes in for the first time. Think about that difference. 842, now you build a house, that's new property. And almost in 1 year that comes on, you've seen Mrs. Coy's estimates of new property, and this is an illustration of why it's so important. Certainly no taxing body could tax that vacant piece of property at the same rate as a house being built on that. So just wanted to share that. I also want to share just a really quick, this came in, this wasn't public comment, but it was a public comment, and it was a comment to you. We had a very savvy community member, Cheryl Cunningham. She's emailed you. I think she's okay if we mention her. And she had a curiosity. She was looking at our original estimation of costs if we added the cost of Lincoln Way and Central into our budget. And I know it's kind of hard to see. I'm going to see if I can expand this out. But we originally, sorry, my computer won't do that with the slide, but that says $66.7 million. And she caught something that we corrected. What we did is, when we did this projection, we put the cost of Lincoln Way North in as a recurring expense. It's not. It's probably a one-time expense. So now if you look at it as a one-time expense, what you're going to see that line does is it flattens out far more, and the decline is not as great. So when we hear from people and it's just a flat-out error, we correct those things. But I think ultimately, one of the things that this illustrates is what you're going for is you're going for steady finances that are reliable. I think the final thing that just has to be said is, I guess I just want to be clear that fund balances are not extra money. That is the money that you have at hand to do all the things that you have to do. It's not extra cash somewhere else and then a budget over here. At any given time, that's what you have to fund your budget, in this case a $60 million budget, and have money to address things that come up. It's not some type of additional money. And the importance in public work is to make sure that we're always staying ahead so that we're always able to continue funding and doing what's right for students. So that's just sort of a report in general, kind of encapsulating some of the dynamics that we've had, with public comment. Yeah, so say.
First of all, my voice kind of hurts, so it's going to be
It's
kind
okay.
of quiet over here.
Yeah.
But can you go to the slide with the comparisons of the school?
Yeah, let me pop this up.
I think when we hear from a lot of public comments, I think it's really easier to visualize like where the money is going to if we have a concrete kind of idea of exactly what programs we're talking about. And I know we're talking about the ISBE academic rating and how that's defined by SAT scores. So my question is, when we're looking at New Trier and like Lake Park and all of those schools, do they have SAT or college prep programs that are also preparing students and like more compared to us? And if we do have this levy increase, will we have college prep programs that are helping the students
Right.
as well?
I would argue you have those programs, because interesting enough, that rating is not based on SAT. Now, the state, SAT scores only count for 20% of that rating now. What counts more is graduation rate, something called college and career readiness, and this board is really focused on that. So where do you get college and career readiness? You get it from a number of different things, but you mainly get it from dual credit and from, which are courses through JJC, which, Ms. Del Ponte is involved in, and then advanced placement. Those are two ways that you can get direct college preparatory experience where you're walking out with a college transcript. Now, there's other ways you can get it as well. Strangely enough, you can get it through athletics, you can get it through extracurriculars, you can get it through volunteerism, and this board has had 40 hours of community service. That can go to the college and career index. You also get it from the number of freshmen who end their freshman year on track. So the state is really, when it comes up with a rating, a designation, it's looking at all of those things, not just narrowly at test scores. I think the state's being responsive to the fact and the research that supports those are college entrance exams. But there's really nothing to suggest that the ACT or the SAT has long-term success in life. In college, independence. Probably when you enter college, Ms. Sose, that'll be the last time anyone asks you what your SAT score is, right? And that's not to say, I'm not saying it's not valuable at all. It measures something. But I just want to point out there's all of these other metrics, right, that come into the composite of a student, and who a student is. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
I just want to comment, during pandemic and sometime after, a lot of the highly rated colleges and universities stopped looking at. They didn't require either SAT or ACT for interest. They looked at the whole student, They changed that.
And that was pre-COVID too.
Right, that's really, really shifting. Now, I was just at the Partnership for College Completion last week, that's not this report. But they're seeing a swing back to that because it's easier. What some of these admissions officers at that said, it's easier, right? If you're not gonna use a test score, then you've gotta go deeper in the recommendations, in the transcripts, it takes more time than just maybe, here's a score, right? So they're in a conundrum. Their colleges have to be wary about their finances as well. So, like I said, Ms. Osei, it doesn't mean nothing. That's absolutely, it means quite a bit. On the note, while we're on SAT scores, one of the things I always ask anyone, including board members, citizens, is it is refreshing to sit down and take or look at items. Because I think you should just ask yourself, when you look at these items on both the SAT and the ACT, are these the items that matter the most to you for students? Just, you might remember a gentleman named Bill Pasalia came in, was very concerned about test scores, sat down with Lori Christopher and I, and we really looked at the SAT, and he said it was an eye-opener for him. These are very challenging questions, and not what he thought they were.
So it's really interesting to think that education has changed within the last 10 years, and it's also changed within the last 3 ever since the pandemic. I think a lot of the people who are only looking at SAT really only know their educational background. They come from a time where test scores were everything. Nowadays,
That's a good point.
and to be honest, back then we really couldn't measure a lot of the qualities that make, I guess, just a better citizen, because those were not really looked at. Like, even today, we are still redefining different personalities, different, like, handicaps that other people have, which we didn't realize were, like, reality for some of these people. And I think, like, it's just trying to get, like, with Bill Pasalia, getting them to realize, like, hey, listen, the metrics have overall changed, and we should be able to, like, move forward. It's no longer all about tests. That's really...
And I always say, Mr. Navarro, they're not unimportant, right?
It's
You know,
not
they-
unimportant,
They
yeah.
tell us, but I think what you've done as a board to say, they're not the only thing. You know, we want to look at some other things to see what the quality of students are and what they're doing. You know, I would say, you know, the 150 volunteers we had at Will County Sheriff Fest, you know, helping neighbors in need. I think most people would agree that that kind of democratic civic participation is as important as anything. You know, that people, you know, are helping their neighbors out, right? Democracies rely on that. It's very important.
There's like being confident in your mediocrity will carry you further than being depressed with your talents or something
I'm
like
gonna
that.
have to think about that for, yeah, I love that. So that is my public comment follow-up.
Thank you. All right, public comments. At each regular open meeting, members of the public and district employees may address the school board during the public comment section of the agenda. Individuals appearing before the board are expected to respectfully follow the guidelines of Policy 2:230 and Policy 8:30 available upon sign-in. Public comments are important to the board. However, it is customary not to respond on issues until time has been taken to gather information and discuss all options. Lack of action or response at the time of comment does not imply lack of interest in the issues brought to the board. And let's see, we have a Miss Ann Gardenier.
Good evening.
Good evening.
First of all, I wanted to thank you all for allowing me to take the time to speak on the referendum this evening. My name is Ann Gardner, and I have been a resident of Lockport for the last 15 years. Upon learning about the potential referendum being put on the ballot via the mailer I received to all homes in the district in mid-September, I began doing my research, following the information, going through board documents, reviewing past board meetings on YouTube, and having conversations with neighbors, relatives, and friends. First, I would like to thank the board for providing this information to the community and for its transparency throughout this process. I was able to find answers to any questions I had in meeting agendas and reports. If you want to know if the population is growing, there's a demographic study. If you want to know why a renovation, there is data to show 6 failed referendums for a new building, but never an option of a revamp of Central Campus. I would highly encourage community members to do the research, as I did, before concluding on this issue. It's my understanding from the reports provided by DLA and Dr. McBride, the referendum will address the following major issues: ADA compliance, HVAC upgrades from the current radiator system in place, new roofing, building security, and classroom space. All of this information is stated in the verbiage that will be printed on the ballot this March. Also, I understand the district cannot use these funds for any other project other than the renovation. Overall, this referendum's intent is to bring an antiquated building into this century in order to educate the freshman classes of Lockport Township. From what I can tell, the board has been expressing this need for about 2 years, starting with the Facilities and Finance Committee. I also heard a board member ask one of the architects in a meeting if the bones of the building are good enough to be viable into the future, to which he replied, yes. I've heard many people speak at previous board meetings stating that they are speaking for my demographic. I am single, I am a mother, I'm a grandmother. I own my own home. I have never had children go through this school system, and I am nearing the age of retirement where I also will be on a fixed income. Like everyone else, I also received my quadrennial property assessment that reflected increases from the assessor. However, I could not think of a better investment for my tax money than an investment in our school system and in our children. Again, I would like to encourage all taxpayers to do their actual research and not just listen to inaccurate speculation on social media prior to making a decision on this very important matter in our community. Thank you.
That's it. That is it. All right, communications.
We have one from the family of Rockowitz, and it states, whether you kept us in your thoughts and prayers, sent a lovely arrangement, gave a memorial donation, or helped out in any way, your love and kindness brought us great comfort and will always be remembered. From the Rockowitz Danaher family.
And just, I think the board knows, but the Rockowitz in the room is actually Dr. Carrie Green, who lost her sister in November.
Yes. Thank you. All right, there you see freedom of information request. Next, we're moving on to our approval items. Approval, do I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes from the November 20th, 23 board meeting?
So moved. Second.
It's been motioned by Dr. Shaw and second by Dr. Shimon Rogers. Are there any questions to those minutes? Hearing none, roll call.
Johnson,
Yes.
Navarro,
Yes.
Shaw,
Yes.
Travis,
Yeah.
Shimon Rogers,
Yes.
Lopez Caniva.
Yes. Next, I have the approval of the closed session meeting minutes of November 20th, 2023. Do I have a motion to approve those closed session?
So moved.
Second.
It's been motioned by Dr. Shaw and second by Mr. Travis. Are there any questions? All right, roll call.
Shaw,
Yes.
Navarro,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Shimon Rogers,
Yes.
Travis,
Yeah.
Lopez Caniva.
Yes. All right, do I have a motion to approve the board member expenses from December 2023?
I move.
Second.
It's been motioned by Ms. Jensen and second by Dr. Shaw. Any questions? All right, hearing none, roll call.
Shimon Rogers,
Yes.
Shaw,
Yes.
Travis,
Yeah.
Navarro,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Lopez Caniva.
Yes. All right, now we'll have Ms. Stephanie Croy.
And Mrs. Croy, do you mind if I pass out the audit? We know that board members will be sitting by the fireside, right, reading away, this is our financial audit, which, is an independent examination. And Chelsea and Tori, I'm gonna send you 2 copies so you can just take a look at them.
You want a paper copy,
Right.
or it's on the website also, so
Right.
up to you, if you really want a paper copy.
This is for some board members who are not here, but if you wanna take a look, we can get them some copies. But, it's an independent, clean bill of health for our finances, so anything you wanna highlight?
That
In your
is
report.
one of the things in our treasurer's report. So our treasurer's report is a little busy this month. We have the typical reports that you see every month, right? Our bills payable that you have to approve, our financial reports, which I'm gonna point out that, one of the, legal requirements of the tax levy approval is we need to point out the fund balances, the cash reserves, available, which of course are in our, statement of position every month. So that's available in this part of the treasurer's report as well. But there's some additional things in here. This month, we've got a bond payment posting in here. So our bonds are paid twice a year. They're due January 1st and July 1st. So the mid-year payment is going to be paid towards the end of the month. So there's a posting related to that. In the interfund transfer summary, you're going to see an additional item as well. Now we're starting to pay some bills related to the ceiling collapse, and like all of our capital projects, we have to put the expenses in a capital projects fund. So that means we are required to do interfund transfers from some other place because the capital projects fund doesn't have enough revenue coming into it to cover those projects. So you'll see a note here where we track the summaries so the board can see what's happening every month as far as interfund transfers. And then in the consent agenda, because that's a new project, you'll see a interfund transfer resolution that you'll have to approve to allow me to make the interfund transfers for that particular project. Then the other two pieces you'll see are the financial forecast pieces updated, which Dr. McBride pointed out in his public comment response section. The purpose of including those updated projections is really just to show the board what we think that we're gonna have to do to the 2024 budget, right? The 2024 budget is going to have to be amended, and it'll drop and it'll cause a fund balance decrease. And so that's really what the purpose of me providing that stuff for you was, so that you can see, here's what it's gonna look like. Well, you saw previously what it was gonna look like without that, now here's what is more reality or closer to reality this year. And then the audited financial statements are in here as well, along with a memo, which everything that's attached for the audit is also in your paper copy. So there's a memo that I've written, and then there's also the estimated financial profile score, which is part of the report card, and so we're expected to have a good score there as well, like normal, like we have over the last, I don't remember how many years. And then these are some upcoming action considerations as well, just to keep the board informed of what's gonna be coming up. Are there any questions on any of that information? The audit, the audit it is an unqualified opinion, and what that means is that there's nothing materially in error in the audit based on all the tests that the auditors performed.
I have a question.
Yeah.
The Quest food contract? I know you said something about the ISBE.
Yeah, that's in actually Mr. Thompson's maintenance report, but yes.
Okay, I know I read it somewhere.
Yeah.
So you say approve the renewal of it, so
Yeah.
will that be without the feeder schools or with the feeder schools, or we don't know?
Right now, we're assuming that it would stay the same, right? But I don't remember actually what the proposal is. I think it's just for our meals, right? What Quest is proposing for our renewal. It'll just be for our portion, correct? Because we're waiting to see what's gonna happen with the feeder
And
schools.
if we want to continue with providing the feeder schools, we would be part of the bid?
The way that would work, okay, so what Ms. Johnson is referring to is as part of the maintenance report, which you'll see in a little bit, Quest has proposed our renewal with them. So, right, this would be normally the time we would be going out to bid, or RFP, right, for food service. But it doesn't make sense to do that because both of our feeder districts were given a notice by ISB that they have to bid independently, as opposed to being part of our agreement and doing an intergovernmental agreement. Those intergovernmental agreements are not, they don't fit what the national government thinks needs to happen with national school lunch program, right? So they have to independently bid. They can't have a contract with us. So what would happen is, let's say that their bid is given to Quest, and we are still working with Quest. That means that Quest can still provide their meals out of our kitchens, but we would now have to have like basically a rent payment. A rent payment, where right now it's in the meal cost, right? Like right now we pass on the cost of the meals to our feeder districts in the governmental agreement with a slight upcharge per meal so that we can cover us transporting them and all the utilities and prep here. Instead, it would have to be separate, not buried in a meal cost.
So we won't be part of the bid process, Quest would be.
Right, right, Quest will bid on their bid proposal. And then if they win, then they can still, propose to, we'd like to still prepare them out of, Lockport East. We need to now pay Lockport Township High School District 205 in order to continue to use that space.
So then we have to do an agreement with Quest to
I
allow
think it
them
would
to
be
do that?
directly with Quest for them to use the space here for, yes, I believe. So it makes more sense though for the school districts to bid it first, because we don't know what is gonna happen with that.
That's assuming Quest got the bid.
Correct. Correct. If someone else gets the bid, they've got to provide them out of whatever their facilities are, right?
Okay. Just curious.
Yeah, no, good questions. Any other questions on the treasurer's report?
Right there for my report.
Sure.
So, that's well done.
All right, so then do I have a motion to approve the November 2023 Treasurers Report?
So moved.
Second. It's been moved by Dr. Shaw and second by Dr. Shimon Rogers. Roll call.
Johnson,
Yes.
Shaw,
Yes.
Navarro,
Yes.
Travis,
Yeah.
Simone Rogers,
Yes.
Lopez Caniva.
Yes. And then superintendent reports.
All right, I think I'll have Mr. Sickbird also join Mrs. Coy from DLA Architects. A couple things that I really want to just shout out. I do want to appreciate Dr. Green, Dr. Greenan, Mrs. Kishline. Just a nice, last Thursday, Friday, we just had a nice celebration, just a nice faculty, staff, I should say, celebration. It's just always nice at Lincoln Way North, always nice here at East to see our grounds, our maintenance, sometimes bus drivers who can get in, paraprofessionals, educational support professionals, just teachers, school counselors, everybody, just coming together. And that doesn't happen on its own. Oftentimes it's Mr. Thompson's staff that's doing all the work out, and getting everything set, and, and enjoying a lunch. So just a great job. Also, there was so much art in the past month. I do have to give a shout out to Madrigals, to band, to great choir concert last week. What was incredible, what Paul Ivnick mentioned about the Nutcracker. We had over 1,000 people come through and just see professional ballet. It was fun for little kids. It was fun for older kids. And then really probably the best part of the season the past month was Will County Share Fest. Jen Crosby, Lori Cristofero, really our whole guidance department. Can't thank enough Bill Thompson and his squad. Share Fest comes in, they bring so much, but all of the setup really happens. And just to see 150 students, serving their community is an amazing thing. Tony Kandari, he could direct traffic. So could Matt Bartlett. They can get the job done. So it was a really good day. It was a good day to be here and see people in the community. So just want to shout all those things out. Dr. Cristofero, can you?
I can't even tell you. I can tell you that all of our stuff in the field house, with the exception of some neon shorts, was gone. And we had families lined up in the hallway for support that we were able to support. And then outside, I said to Mr. Kandari at like 12:30, I was worried that we were going to run out of food. And we didn't. So everybody that came here received some assistance. And so I can't even, there were well over 200 people, I think, in the field house at one point in time. And I would just echo that our students were fantastically wonderful human beings and helpful to these people who came into our space.
Yeah, they were great students. I have to give a personal shout out to our Interact Club, Carla Button and Andrea Quintanar. Usually for us, we do a big food basket ourselves last weekend, and usually we're scraping together, making sure everybody's there. Friday evening set up along with the CCC program, and Saturday in the morning, they just took it over. So if you're a Rotarian, some disparaging remarks were made about age and ability to lift things, which I did not appreciate. But possibly true. So it was just, some of the really important things. I think that matter. On to business, just very quickly. Dr. Cristofero and I, we were invited to the American Academy of Arts and Sciences in Cambridge, Massachusetts, which was founded by John Adams in 1780. The idea was that the nation was going to need advice on how to be a nation. And if you walk into the Hall of Letters, letters from Alexander Hamilton, Martin Luther King, T.S. Eliot, Oprah Winfrey, those are all people who have been elected to the Academy and joined. We were there for a symposium that was looking at democracy in schools and civics in schools. And we, in some ways, we were really the only school district there. There were all sorts of thinkers there at a two-day meeting. And we were there just because a number of people had heard your reputation as board members of civic service, your community service, some of the things we've done with college and career, all of which, to Ms. Frieri's part, seemed like just normal things that you do, seemed fairly extraordinary to some of the thinkers that we were around. And American Academy is writing a paper, so the purpose was to contribute to that. And then also last week I was asked again to represent the district at the Partnership for College Completion, and again was curious why was I invited? Certainly not just my own, but just that organization that's dedicated to first generation, low income, Hispanic, African American students successfully entering college and graduating is sort of paying attention to things, and they asked around, and a number of people said, well, you should get somebody from Lockport Township High School to come. So I was honored to do that. Central Campus. So we have two things to talk about with Central Campus: sort of repair and referendum. I thought it'd be a good time. Just good teaching is review. I thought it'd be a good time to give you an update, especially with Eric and with Stephanie here, just to kind of jump into Central Campus right now and Central Campus in the future. And if both of you could chime in, at any time, Eric, Stephanie, and we've just some questions that floated around that we think are particularly good. So one question is, why is the process for repairing Central Campus ceilings taking so long? November 1st, you have a ceiling come down. It's December 18th. So just to explain that, first, there was an opportunity to do all sorts of reports, environmental health reports, asbestos reports, and of course, WJE. Forensic architects had to come in. It took them 3 weeks to write the report, do their inspection, provide you with the coding schematics, continue to refine that to give DLA actual recommendations about if you get up into that ceiling in that red room, this is what we think you should do. We actually were going over some of those recommendations, those more specific, here's the work you should do, came in just last Friday. DLA has been working, you have a memorandum of understanding to approve tonight, for them now to specify in all those orange and red rooms what are the architectural plans that they would do to demolish those old ceilings and put new ones up. So that all takes time. If there's anything you want to chime in on the work you've been doing, but then one of the things we've gotten a lot of questions about is, what is this bidding process? And any construction that's over $50,000 in Illinois, you have to go out for a competitive bid and accept the lowest responsible bidder. We will be over $50,000. We have to give specifications for that bid. We have to give construction companies time to bid. We have to open those bids, analyze them. You have to approve those bids before those contractors can even start demolishing ceilings, for example. All of that takes time. I'll kind of lead you into something else, but anything to add, Eric, to that work?
That pretty much is it in the bidding process. You might ask, well, why didn't we have to do that when the ceiling came down, and that was in an emergency state? And that's also, it ended up being less than the $50,000. So we were able to get a contractor immediately to do the demolition of the ceilings that were highly at high risk. So we were able to demo those ceilings right away. But what you just stated is true. The process of going through a bidding process takes a little bit longer to do that. We have to, obviously, I don't want to repeat your words, but basically say the same thing. So, and also the point of redundancy. As we're moving through this, we did not necessarily think, okay, 50,000 is a lot. We have to, obviously, as I don't want to repeat your words, but basically say the same thing. So, and also the point of redundancy. As we're moving through this, we did not necessarily think, okay, 50,000 is a lot. We have to, obviously, as I don't want to repeat your words, but basically say the same thing. So, and also the point of redundancy. As we're moving through this, it's pretty complex, so we don't want to necessarily rush into this, get it done, and now we have to tear it down if the referendum passes, and/or, hey, if we have some more time to design what that space really wants to be, now we have to tear down the ceiling that we just put up. It's not like we can just demo the ceilings and leave it as is and put lights and ceilings up there. We have to provide fire protection because of the wooden construction type of the building. So that means that we would have to tear down the ceilings, and then we have to come back in with a drywall type system or some type of fire rated system, and then we have to put in new lights and new ceilings into those spaces. But if the referendum does pass, then we just build possible redundancy there because those rooms haven't been designed yet and they're gonna change once we get into the design process of the school. So we thought, well, what do we wanna do with this? Do we wanna wait? Do we wanna, what? And regardless of that, just getting through that process of getting the ceilings repaired and replaced, as Dr. McBride just mentioned, we just got the last report last Friday from WJE for us to actually start officially moving forward with what we need to do. We have been moving forward in getting the drawings of the central campus put together. The existing building has not been digitized, what we call, so it's not accurate, the plans that you've been seeing up here. And we wanted to make sure that the plans are accurate, so that takes time. We took a couple of days out in the field measuring every classroom to make sure the classrooms are the right size. So a lot of detail that goes into to make sure, we want to make sure the plans are correct and you get accurate bids and all goes smoothly. We don't want to rush into something like this.
And just to make mention, what the board was presented with the $85 million estimate, it started at 115. You asked for Eric to come back in November, bringing that down. We were concerned about per, household tax increase. That was a conceptual plan, not a conceptual money-wise, but not architectural plans.
Right.
Save that money, no offense to DLA, and investing in architectural plans, now have a conceptual renovation. In many ways, we've been forced into a construction project. That's all there is to it. And then enter, anybody here who's done a construction project on their home, if we take those ceilings out, shouldn't we have a structural engineer come in and do a visual inspection? There's a great opportunity because now a structural engineer can really look behind the wall. And so last Friday, we were in a meeting asking that question, but of course, if we do a demolition of the ceiling, we ask Pease and Borst Associates to come in and take a visual inspection. They'll have to write a report. They might have things that they would like repaired. We'd have to roll that in to also a ceiling bid after the demolition. But wouldn't we want them to do that work if we have that kind of exposure? We kind of want to bring that to you tonight because we assume that's what you would want us to do it right, not do it quickly. But if we do it right, the time that students are going to come back to Central Campus begins to creep forward.
Yeah, those are some of the questions that are popping up that you don't, it's like, because if on a normal project, we have some time to prepare and plan and get things set up, and then when we come to you and say this is a schedule, we have been reactive to what happened, and so we're trying to catch up to all of that. And as we work through different scenarios, it was mentioned that, while we have these ceilings exposed, the roof structure exposed, it'd be a great time to be able to take a look at the existing structure and what's going to have to take place up there to reinforce it and or to repair it. And so that's going to add probably 2 to 3 weeks within this design or this getting the drawings prepared to be able to do that, because again, our structural engineer now has to walk through the building on the 3rd floor where there is a roof to determine the integrity of that structure. WJE was responsible for ceilings only. We would be still waiting if they were responsible for roof structure as well. And also they did not have visual access to all of the roof structure. Once the ceiling's all coming down, then we can have a visual inspection of that roof structure fairly easily. It's not like an attic in your house where you can just get up into a space and walk around and take a look at it. A lot of those areas are closed off and inaccessible unless you take down the ceiling. So taking down the ceiling, which we're going to be doing anyway, hey, let's take advantage of that and to kill two birds with one stone, I guess is one way to say that.
And we would almost need direction from you tonight. We went in that meeting on Friday, assuming we would want to. It's a rare opportunity to be thorough. You know, we could take ceilings down, put new ceilings up that would meet, you know, Will County Regional Office of Education. But it just seems where we're at now with students in place, there are some things we want to work out with Lincoln Way North. But they're in a good place. We have a great relationship with Lincoln Way District 210. It almost feels like we should take advantage of that and measure twice, cut once. But I don't know how you feel about it as board members. You might feel differently. You might feel that the mission is to get students back in quicker. We're just thinking the mission is to do it right.
Also, there's different phases that pop up to be able to do it efficiently. To do one package and say, okay, one contractor is doing everything, it's going to be incredibly difficult for them to understand, okay, how much structural repair is going to have to take place if we don't know what that is. If we don't tear down the ceilings, have a structural engineer review it, and then tell them this is what you need to do. So we're looking at now different phases to be able to do it efficiently and with the district's money, and to be able to make sure we do it right.
You know, another question we had, you know, is the building in good shape to remain as a school after renovation, or are we just looking at a makeover? And, you know, Stephanie could talk to this, Bill. Really, since 2011, we have been doing the makeover. The board is aware we put about $500,000 to $1 million a year. A patch there, a tuck pointing there, a lintel there. We spent, you know, close to about $500,000 in 2021. Really, if we were told to do it, you know, we've tried to do it. And as someone in public comment mentioned earlier, if you just go to our district webpage, there is a very nice tab on your right-hand side that Mr. Slager has created. You click, and you have central updates. And you can see that we really value community service because we have a pop-up that won't let you get past it. You know, you can just see all of the reports that we put up. You know, indoor air quality, mold sampling, videos, really everything that we could think of to give a sense of all of the work that's been done on this building. We actually even have more documents that go further back that we're going to upload as well. Just to give it transparent. If it's, you know, as we heard earlier, you need to find out about it from the demographic projection that you did in 2022 to now. It's there. It's really at your fingertips. You know, since the last referendum, that's what we've been doing, really. You know, and as the speaker mentioned, 6 times, people turn down new construction. And in some ways, that's created a very difficult problem for our community, in that that new construction was intended for the children of today, and that new construction is not built. So in many ways, it narrows the opportunities that we have. Just got to give the repair phases. I thought maybe phases would help. You know, what Mr. Sickbert and I just described, forensic architects, DLA architects, the work that they're going to do to prepare the site, demolition of classroom ceilings. That's a very important step. You've asked for all the red and orange ceilings and buildings. So that we have to prepare specifications to do the demolition. That'll be more costly than $50,000. That has to be bid. That takes time. That process happens. Now it's exposed. Now we're able to have some structural engineering, visual inspection, repair that they might suggest, and then any kind of repair, you know, final concept for the ceiling. So maybe we have 3 phases here just to answer that question. Why is this taking so long, right?
And subsequently, we've had thought of another phase that we're probably going to need to be done, and that is sounding, they call it.
Right.
Tapping on the existing. Some of the new plan that we received on Friday indicated that some of the area that we thought was a light green is now let's do some more sounding of this particular ceiling and remove any plaster. That when I say sounding, they tap on the ceiling to hear if there's a hollow sound. If there's a hollow sound in that area, the ceiling should be removed. So there was some of that they thought, well, you need to do some sounding in some of these areas that we thought were going to be okay. So how do you do that? Okay, we have to do that after the ceilings are removed, so that the contractor, or we got two ceilings that we're dealing with. We got lay-in ceiling, like we have here, and then we got the plaster ceiling. So the lay-in ceiling has to be removed, so that then sounding can occur, so that we can determine what needs to be done. We can't tell the contractor to do something if we don't know what
needs
that is to be done. So that is another phase that we have to go through.
Right, and if you're wondering, really right now, we're doing some of the initial stages of a renovation, right? Necessary stages, but we've already really stepped into a renovation project, which, I would say the prediction on the building is that there would be more systems without renovation, more systems that are old. They're like anything in many of our homes. Some other questions that I want to get into, maybe possibly related to some questions that are particular, just summarizing some thinking that you've had in approaching this, but certainly slow me down if that description did not make sense of why this is taking so long. We're also trying to be conscious. One of the things we learned in the pandemic is that change, very difficult psychologically, emotionally. We knew that we got over there in a week, but it took a lot of people's everything they had, including our colleagues in Lincoln Way, took everything they had. Coming back will be just as challenging and can't just happen overnight. So when's the right time to do that? Some other questions that this is more about the future, and anybody, certainly Eric, Stephanie, board members chime in. We had a question about why not the property on Cedar Road. I think first and foremost is the cost of new construction. Board members have heard that a brand new freshman center would be about $145 million. A brand new 9 through 12 high school would be about $180 to $200 million. And we've had a lot of conversation here about taxes, and we know what that tax burden would be. It would be double to triple, the current referendum that you've put on the ballot. And then also timeline. If tomorrow we could decide we wanted to build a new building here in the back of East Campus, over at Cedar Road, that would not materialize, forget the cost, for about 3 years. And today, March 19th and March 20th, we'll still have the same problem. We'll need a home for 1,000 students. Even if we're going to raise a brand new building, it's not coming, for quite some time. Even if the community you felt was not interested in that tax burden. There are water and sewer issues that the Village of Homer Glen are trying to work out, but that's not improved land. And at least today, some of the options don't look all that great. School buildings use a ton of water and sewage, and that would be on your dime to build, but also there's just some very unclear picture of servicing for water and sewage that has to get worked out. Community disagreements. The last 6 referendums were just filled, and you've talked about some of those as a board, where communities could not come to agreement on attendance areas, busing routes, location. I think there's a lot of evidence to see those community disagreements still exist. Everybody would benefit from this renovation. Demographic projections, the demographic projection is that we really will cruise, to 2032 and beyond at about 4,200. Why not add, the great question, why not add on to Lockport East Campus? Really the same question, kind of 2 answers to it. One, cost of new construction, that would be, probably about $145 million, whether you have a freshman center here or you have it in Homer. Timeline, same timeline. But also, we just completed a traffic study. As board members, we had many people come to public comment, complain about traffic. Saw Steve Strike today, and I said, unless Will County and the city is planning on making Division 4 lanes, Farrell 4 lanes, 7 4 lanes, that we've been advised, don't bring more traffic to this campus. And then also, many people have the appeal of a historic building.
That wouldn't even be possible with all the buildings that surround those streets.
That's true, Mr. Navarro, but there is a very nice, large piece of property behind this building. It's just, if you bring that traffic, what can happen, and the cost, and the time. Some other questions, just, if anybody wants to chime in. Really good question, why can't the community vote on options on March 19th? That's just election law. You know, you almost wish that in some states it works like this, but in Illinois, you can't have sort of multiple choice, right? Vote for, you know, a couple of different options. Some states have gone to that with candidates, with referendum issues. We don't have that in Illinois currently. The board has to say it's going to do this, and you have to have a straight yes or no from the community. And then what methods have been used to give community members a voice who do not have children in school? In spring and summer, we did tours of Central. We had about 500 people come through. As I mentioned, we had a direct mailer in the fall. We used email, social media. We've included surveys, a number of just sounding surveys. What do people think? You know, as was mentioned, most of your board meetings since 2022, that demographic study for 2 years touched on Central. Videos, we live stream board meetings. We will have upcoming informational talks in the community. And then we'll resume after winter break tours. I'm in many ways planning Wednesday nights, 6:30, just make it a standing obligation. There are a few Wednesday nights we can't do that because we have school conflicts, but just really Wednesday night, 6:30 p.m. Walk through, unless there's a construction limitation, you know, that kind of thing. Finally, why not just sell Central Campus? We've actually explored that with the city. Anyone who bought that building would take on $45 million in life safety, ADA compliance, and I don't know many developers that would want to take that on. And so what would the buyer interest be? It's primarily cited for a school. I've mentioned the board several times. Really, the fate is demolition. Vintage buildings like this are just not appealing. A developer wouldn't, you know, might buy it at a very low cost to demolish it and build homes. But then there's a historic appeal to it. Will there be any changes or adjustment to life in Lincoln Way? I don't want to jump out in front of my colleague, Dr. Green, but we're looking at our buses are running very efficiently. Can we get a little bit of extra time, ease the pressure on students and teachers? Looking at the impact, we've so far had a great relationship with Lincoln Way District 210. We're very happy. That's helped pave the way. And right now, we're just in this repairing it right quickly. I don't know, Stephanie or Eric, anything to add? That's what I've got.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I guess I should have asked it earlier. So if the referendum gets passed, we would keep the students over at Lincoln Way, potentially?
Well, you know, it's looking more and more like we'll have to, with this project, we're getting closer and closer to a timeline. But if we miss that curve at spring break, it would be very difficult to bring students back until the summer.
Okay.
Just because of the time that Mr. Thompson's staff needs, the time that staff need. You know, they can't simultaneously teach and move. Are you asking beyond that, Mrs. Johnson?
Yeah, I said if the referendum passed.
Well, that might be something you might have to really consider as a board.
Because we can't bring them here.
Right. Now, we'd always planned on doing that in phases, right? Because the building was built modularly, so it sort of suggests you can do it in phases. I don't want to speak for Mr. Sickbird, but the sooner you can do a construction project, usually you save quite a bit of cost. And I don't want to speak for the Lincoln Way Board to say that, you know, we can continue our lease, right?
Yeah. And if we touch some of that old stuff, we got to bring it up to code, right?
We do.
That's
And
a cost there.
Americans with Disability, I had an interesting conversation. I was connected with the superintendent in Spokane, Washington today, who they have 54 buildings in Spokane. They started with Lewis and Clark High School, older than Central. And their community side, they wanted that original high school renovated. And they actually renovated it to get on the National Register of Historic Places. And it's been so cost effective, it's been, you know, such a positive thing in the community that now they're only renovating buildings. They're not building any new buildings. It's kind of an interesting approach, gave me a lot of advice. So it was a good meeting. You know, Eric.
You're right, definitely. The sooner you can get the project done, the less costly it's going to be, as we have seen from when we went out the referendum first time around, and how much we thought that high school would be at that time, and now what that high school costs. And the last few years, we've experienced incredible inflation rates in construction amounts. So, yeah, definitely, sooner you can decide on construction, the better, for financial means, for sure. We did originally design this building, or planning on renovating of Central in phases, because that's about all you can do, because you don't have, at that moment, we didn't think of having a place to put the students while we renovate. Not much choice that we have. We have scenarios and we have options that we can do, but it becomes, again, we'd have to go out into like 5 to 6 different phases to be able to move around the entire building to do what needs to be done. And can't do it all in the summer for specific, definitely what needs to be done in some of these projects. So things to consider and things that we've been thinking about.
And we would also, I think, in the new year, have to have a robust conversation with the board. You know, you always need a plan A and a plan B, right? What would the plan be, you know, if the referendum isn't successful? Obviously, the hope is that what's happened is illustrated that we can't expect at that building systems to fail. And I don't think any of us, when I first approached you on this 2 years ago, I didn't think, you know, we'd be here. I regret that we're here, obviously.
Yeah, we thought things like the boiler or heating and cooling system would go first.
Roof.
Roof is, yeah, definitely very,
You always worry about roofs in any building, right?
I mean, I've always considered, you know, instead of doing something very quickly, you know, I think we should just take the time, you know, for them to really start doing their work and doing it right. And as long as the students there at Lincoln Way North, they're getting acclimated. I mean, I hear comments, you know, from parents. They're very happy that at least they're in person, you know, and they have somewhere to go. I don't know how the rest of you feel.
I mean, I've only heard positive things from parents of, you know, that have students over there. And, you know, ultimately, yes, I would like to see some more time in the classroom for the students. So, and I know that that's an ongoing discussion of how can we make sure that they're getting as much seat time as they need in order to be successful. I know we've talked about that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Other questions, just you know, and if I could just ask, you know, Eric, I know this is like, one of the questions I had in there that may be worth a recap and review by you, Stephanie, is why $85 million? I know that can't, you've got 6 meetings behind you with us where you've broken down the costs, you know, I have that, you know, this cost estimate, you know, so I don't wanna put you on the spot as if though you just thought it up, you know. But if you could maybe speak to.
Did somebody ask the question of what are we, because we went from 100 and what?
Right.
We're down, what are we not getting?
Yeah, I think that's a good question.
That was a question somewhere.
Because the top end of this estimate was 95 million to 115 million. Yeah, in October, you asked us to bring that down, we did that in November, right? Did you have a question, Michael?
No, I'm just listening.
Okay, got it. So I know that's a very difficult question to answer just off the cuff, but maybe worth reviewing exactly what Ms. Johnson said.
Obviously a very complex project. We did a pretty in-depth review of the needs of the building itself. What does the building need to bring it up to current standards? But also we did a curriculum review as well. We had a lot of meetings with staff, with the students and the public, and to determine how are things working in that building now, how do they want to be in the future, which is something that we always do when we go into a new facility and or a major remodeling for an educational facility. So we've gone through that process. That's just the very beginning of a typical process of designing a school or designing a major renovation. We need to now go what we would call going into programming, and we have not done that yet. So when we look at the estimate at this time, we don't know what at the end of this building is going to look like. We just have a general idea how many classrooms you need, how many students are in that building, and how those classrooms might, how much space you might need for classrooms, and how much you might need for cafeteria and all the other auxiliary spaces that a school needs. So there hasn't actually been a complete design We haven't programmed it, we haven't designed it, none of that has taken place. So we are a general conceptual cost estimating stage. How much do you think it would be to renovate this school? So to be able to do this in our profession is you start breaking out pieces of magnitude of renovation or magnitude of building. If it's a brand new school, it's pretty much easy. We know what a general cost per square foot for a brand new school is, because this is what we do, so we can just apply it to the amount of square footage that you need, and then you have a general number of what it is. And as time marches on, we refine that number, and it starts becoming more realistic. It's never the real number until you get out onto the street and bid it out. It's a commodity, it's not a known. It's not like you can go to a car dealer and know that it's gonna cost you this amount of money, all of that. So, long story there, but to get to the point, so for this particular project, we figured general major renovation areas based on the communication that we had with administration and staff, what the classrooms want to be. So we just took a look at how, okay, this particular area is going to be a major renovation, a lot of hard work, so we threw a general cost estimate to that particular area. This other area is not going to change much, so we're not going to have to impact it too much, so the cost of it is a little lighter. So that's what we did for the entire project. And also we had some new spacing coming in, a major renovation. We're removing a pool and making it into something completely different. That would be classified as major renovation and a higher cost. We have a classroom that doesn't look like it's going to change too much other than ceilings and paint and floor. That's going to be a lot less cost, right? So when we originally proposed the concept of what the renovation was going to look like, if you recall, we were going to have we were going to redo the student center and or cafeteria, make it into a combination type place. Obviously that cost was a little higher than what the district thought that we could afford. So hey, architect, DLA, give us a different option. So basically we removed that option, and also we removed the option of moving your media center. We also, in that first option, we had the media center moved into what we thought would be a more, a better designed space for it. But, so we decided, well, to save some money, we'll eliminate that major renovation cost. So that's how we were able to get it down in conceptual estimate. Remember, when we did propose that, though, again, we're into a spot where you're giving up priorities. And it's really not, okay, we know these specific spaces because we don't know the designs of those specific spaces. The priority one would be, let's get this building up to standards, repair the roof and do all of the things that this building needs just to make it a viable building moving forward. So that we're thinking is around 30 to 40 million, something like that, just to get that up to that spot. So all the other money there is, okay, let's look at the higher priorities. What's next? You know, the CDC and the academy, those are higher priorities. ADA accessibility, make sure the building's accessible. So that's a high priority. So that's how we're thinking that the money's going to be spent down, and then we'll do as much as we can. What we like to offer our districts is to give them some flexibility when you get down to the harder decisions. Okay, what are we going to do? We only have this amount of money left. What can we do? We can throw alternates into those bid packages that we release so that you can make those decisions at that time and know exactly what it's going to cost.
So can you give an estimate of what the cost savings would be from doing all the construction at once versus having it out staggered in comparison to having Lincoln Way also being utilized?
We can certainly tell you it's going to, in history, we'll tell you it's definitely going to be more expensive every year. Last couple of years, we've seen exorbitant amount of inflation. As you heard it in the news, 8% inflation. If you put 8%, 10% on $1 million, that's a whole heck of a lot of money. If we put it on $80 million, it becomes even more, you know, so every year we're anticipating, you're probably thinking, in general, it's average, it's like 3 to 5% increase in cost to do something. So if we phase that out 5 years, 6 years to do it in multiple phases, you take that 80, you know, the priorities and the options that you have available, because you already have your lump sum, what you're able to do, then that just starts getting narrower, less and less as you move further and further out in the years.
We could probably do, I mean, we have, probably, I don't wanna speak for you, Stephanie, but I think we've got enough to predict, you know, if you extended, you know, if we were able to extend, what would that cost be versus the cost savings of,
Right.
right?
The Lincoln Way.
I mean, we could probably do that for the board if that was something you were interested in.
Right.
Probably come up
Over
with
the
something,
next
yeah.
month, come up with a rough estimate. You know,
Not
it
to
sounds
say-
like I'm seeing a lot of nodding of heads, that would be an interesting proposition.
And not to say that we tried to throw some inflation in that estimate that we released, there was some inflation into that number that we gave out, but it definitely wasn't what we've seen in the last 3 years. So, but yes, we could certainly, I can get a better number for you.
No, that's good.
If we figure that out and know how many years that we're talking, we can put a number to that pretty well. You would definitely see savings.
So long review, but review is usually good in the teaching business. Any other questions? Okay.
All right, next we have our curriculum report for Christopher and Dr. Hamilton. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. So first I'm going to talk about the things I'm asking for us to put on a board meeting for January 11th. And I want to kind of explain to you how that came about. All my documents up
And as you
there.
get organized, Dr. Christopher, a special meeting Thursday, January 11th, with Dr. Christopher is going to explain something we know we have to approve. I also suggested that date because given what you just heard, you might have to look at bids, you might need more information. So it seemed an opportune time to take care of something we have to take care of, and there might be some other things coming your way as well.
So I just want to tell you a little bit about how we prepare for board meetings, right? We have regular agenda items that happen during the same month every year that we prepare for. One is like the October academic report, we're preparing for that. The May, when you guys approve or look over resource approval. April, God bless you, you look at summer curriculum budgets. So the items that came up is this waiver for students to take driver's education in place of their PE. State law says they have to be in PE, and so we want to file this waiver. So we were working to get it ready for January meeting, and we started working on this on December 6th. And there's lots of things you have to do when you want to ask the state for a waiver, and that would include like you post something on your website for 14 days, and then you have to have it in the newspaper, and you have to have a hearing before the board meeting that you're going to approve it, all those things. And we would have been able to accomplish all those things, except the board meeting occurs on the January 15th date, which would be your normal day, is an MLK day. So then we don't have it till the 22nd. And so then what happens is the state requires that we have materials postmarked by January 15th, which is a Monday. It's a holiday, so now you got to back it up some. And so you get the dilemma that was created. So, and really you should know that when the waivers kind of get bundled and taken to the General Assembly for approval kind of twice a year. And so even if we tried to do it at a later date, we would miss the March 1st approval deadline for the General Assembly for the waiver and have to go to October. We would have students that already been enrolled. So you all are shaking your head like you understand when I'm telling you all these dates. And this only occurs this particular waiver once every 5 years. So the last time you actually had a waiver approval was on January 7th, 2019. And again, it was at a special meeting. So within my office, we do this work. And I've said, let's move this up and have it on the November 2029 instead of kind of waiting till January, so that hopefully a special board or just a board meeting does not have to be scheduled. So that is, do you have any questions about the PE waiver that would allow our students to take driver's education? The next one is a driver's education fee waiver, and this happens like every 2 years. So you last voted on this on January 24th, 2022, and what it does is it helps defray the costs to the district for students to do the behind the wheel portion of driver's education, which there's a lot of research out there. Both of these programs have significantly reduced the risk of teen driving. Because we would be asking for you to approve for the maximum, which is $250, and Ms. Croy regularly has shared with you, and I can put it in next month, but the expenditure per student to run that is about $380, so the district still does have a cost. So that is the second one for January 11th. Any questions on that one? All right, then here's the new one. So first of all, before I start talking about the calendar update we'll ask you to approve in January, I just want to say I'm extremely grateful to the Will County Assistant Superintendent, John Sparlin. He's new in the role, and every time I've called him, or emailed him, he's responded. He's expedited discussions at the state level on our behalf, so I just really want to thank him. But you should also know, and you probably support this, that ISBE, in conjunction with the General Assembly, they've been really tight on the use of emergency e-learning since the pandemic. We know that the state has pivoted and said, nope, we want kids in school. We now know really that's super important. So the first thing I'll tell you is because our students were online for actually more than 5 days, we have expended all of our emergency e-learning days so that if we have a horrible, blustery, no good day, right, where Dr. McBride works with you and has to say it's a snow day, it will really have to be that. We don't have anything emergency e-learning. And your question might be, well, Lori, only 25% of our students were online learning. You know, these students were here in person. But the way that ISBE looks at it is if we did not offer in-person learning for all our students, then it was a use of emergency e-learning. So I'm also want to express our gratitude, my gratitude for the staff and students and their swift move to e-learning. I think it was really, they were efficient and productive and learning occurred. So that's a great thing. One day, November 14th, and this was the day we had to make provisions for our staff to become familiar with Lincoln Way North. And that was the only day we did not have our freshmen learning, with the exception of the day we had, we closed the building, right? We swiftly moved to that. This was a day that they were not afforded in-person learning. We had no emergency days. Staff couldn't have been doing it anyway because they were moving in and learning that building so they could support freshmen coming in. And so that's the day we had to make up. So again, I'm grateful to this whole leadership team here. We had many discussions about when should we do that, how do we do that. I'm grateful to Mrs. Kishline and her team, and after many discussions, we thought an additional parent-teacher conference day, which we are allowed to have 2, and that counts by ISBE ruling, would be really useful. One, it would give teachers, especially freshman teachers, the time to have interactions with parents to say how the students are doing academically. Certainly, we're interested in how a second parent-teacher conference day would play out with our, sophomore through seniors. And this would cause very little disruption to the families. Our teachers would be, they would have to be available for parent-teacher conferences, but families, because we use an online portal, could access it through online wherever they were. So if they were on vacation and they wanted to have a conference, they could still do so. Teachers also, when we have a day that we're scheduling, which which students aren't here, right? There's a lot of support staff we don't have here. So by making a parent-teacher conference day, you know, we're not trying to figure out how do we get the rest of the staff that makes our school run on campus. And so lastly, it would allow us to have an end date like we originally planned for it. So that's all the reasons for the change in the calendar date. And again, this would be for March 4th. Any questions? But I'm saying here publicly, like I've tried to broadcast it, like, you know, to our teaching staff, we sent out an email, like the emergency days that we put in the calendar, that you put in the you know, at the end of the school year, they really are essential to keep clear now. Because I don't know what winter's gonna bring, but if something happens, we have extended all the use of days that the state will allow us.
And it's because of that, you probably will not approve an amended calendar until we get closer into like April. So that you're not amending it, and we hope there's not a lot of weather amending.
Yeah.
So what does this do to the senior early release?
Nothing, no
It doesn't
change.
affect it.
They
Gotta
want you
have
to
a
vote
campaign.
yes, yeah. I would think, and Dr.
So we can
McBride,
still, they can still go when they.
at this juncture, I think, Dr. McBride would have to speak if there would be any hugely, I just can't see for, even if it was one emergency day, snow day, you know, they would probably still follow through with the plans that have been put in place.
But they seem to be a stickler these days.
Yeah, oh, sorry, Mr.
I just wanna
Navarro.
say, how crazy is it that if we were to have a snow day, that could quite possibly be the last snow day ever? Just thinking about that, because we have e-learning.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're probably never gonna get to the point where we run out of e-learning days. I just think that's like. Well, hopefully it doesn't happen again. But I'm just saying, like, 5 e-learning days is a lot of days to waste. Hopefully. Yeah.
Any other questions on those 3 changes that I shared with you? So thank you for your support and understanding. And now actually, Dr. Greenman and we don't get to sit up here together often, but we were going to share with you a little bit about equal opportunity schools.
Thank you, Dr. Christopher. I am here to provide an update on where we are at with our partnership with Equal Opportunity Schools and where we are going. As Dr. McBride has mentioned, this first-year partnership with EOS is a planning year, which involves 3 phases: survey, outreach, and support. So we have the survey results from both our teachers and our students, and I do want to mention that there are 2 important areas of outreach that are one that has already transpired and one that is currently going on. 2 weeks ago, we had our AP Information Night, where we invited all of our families for our AP Showcase, where we had college admissions representatives, we had school guidance counselors, we had our AP representation of AP students, and AP teachers. We invited students and families who have been identified by Equal Opportunity Schools as students who we may want to tap into, to look into scheduling them for an AP honors or dual credit course. So we sent those invitations, and it was a very well-attended night 2 weeks ago. The other part of outreach that currently is going on, you know, we spend so much time preparing for the new school year, and then it seems like it doesn't take very long for us to start getting ready for the next school year, which is what our school guidance counselors are doing right now, is they've done a great job actually going back to November, meeting with groups of students to talk about their 4-year course planning meetings, which is the course selection process, and then just started at the beginning of December meeting with students. You might recall we've talked about the student insight cards that we get from Equal Opportunity Schools, regardless if it's a student who is being identified as a student to take an AP honors or dual credit course. Every student gets one of those student identification or student insight cards. So guidance counselors are currently meeting with students this month and will for the next few months in our outreach efforts in those 4-year course planning meetings. Next steps for our equity team, actually next month, January 17th, we will be meeting with our partnership director, LaShawn Singleton, as she will be going through what is called the Equity Pathways Report, which is really just a comprehensive breakdown of the survey results from our students and from our staff, so that we can dig even deeper into that course selection process, the outreach of students, the communication with students and families, and then eventually the supports that we want to put in place, not only for our students, but for our staff as well. The other part of our meeting on January 17th is we're going to talk about the trusted adult training. One piece of data that we receive from students are trusted adults here at Lockport who have encouraged them, who believe in them, and we want to utilize these trusted adults when it comes to that outreach and that recruitment part to have a student take either an AP honors or dual credit course. There's a training that goes along with that for the trusted adults, so that's another thing that we will be talking about. And then we'll also be looking forward to, like I said, those support strategies that we'll be using with students and with staff as well.
Question. What percentage of the teachers fell into trusted adults? What percentage did? You know what I'm saying?
I will need to look at the numbers.
They don't really break the
get
data
an exact
down
number
that way.
yet.
They simply just name who was named.
They do what?
Right? They just name who was named. Student Sandra Rogers, she named Chelsea Osei and Tori Del Ponte. So they don't really run a metric on, raw numbers. They really more focus on this student has identified these people as trusted adults.
It'd just be interesting because then you could ask yourself, why wasn't Veronica one of the teachers? I think a while back when we tried to change the way, I don't remember what class it was. Why is in some teacher class you get an A? It means one thing. In a different class is different. An A is not an A kind of thing. You know what I'm talking about?
It gets
we looked at that.
Right. It gets a little tricky too because students tend to answer based on the staff they're working with right now.
Okay.
So that's what's on the top of their mind. I'm working with these teachers. They rarely go backward. It's more of a present tense. What's happening with them right now?
Okay.
But I kind of
Not the ones in the past that have.
Yeah, they tend not to pick those folks, even if they trust them.
Well, and I would say too, that we did have seniors complete the survey, and a lot of times the seniors might form some of the tightest bonds with their senior teachers, but it's the time that you give it, so, interesting. Dr. McBride, can you click on the first graphic and I'll try to go through it really quickly? So here's some of the other data that we get from equal opportunity schools. And this is, I love this graph because it really goes to board goal number 1 about making sure our students are graduating with AP or dual credit. This actually represents 1,764 students participating in AP dual credit. And so the blue is showing you the kids that are in AP classes. So if I'm just gonna look at this one. This is AP, they're in both AP and dual credit, and then they're just in dual credit. So this is profiling freshmen through seniors. Something that's really important, here you can see this is the number that 57% represents. If Bob scrolls down, you'll see the total number in that category. And this category is Asian, middle, and high income. So it breaks it down by racial demographic and then by socioeconomic demographic. And really, yeah, Bob, can you, yes, go that way. Does that zoom out?
That view board likes to be touched.
Oh, did I touch it? Yeah. I'm so sorry.
It's magic.
If you look at it across, yeah, you're gonna see the second bar for each of them is the low income, perfect. And you'll see that the low income group that we keep talking about has less representation in AP dual credit, or both of them, across the board, except you might say, Lori, what's going on with here, Asian low income? Well, that has to do with the number of the students in that group. There's only 18 students in that group. So obviously when you have a smaller sample size, it's gonna distort your number. So across, we thought this is still good data overall to see. Exciting to see that we've got all four, but Bob, if you can go to the next one. The next one just represents our senior students this year. And this was super exciting to see the progress we've made. You can see if the high on the other board was, we had an average, and I didn't want to touch it. We saw kind of about, if we were looking for our middle to high income groups, you had about 55% kind of across in 3 different demographic groups that were meeting that. And then when we go over here, we see our lowest is at 59%. So it was really exciting to see what our seniors are doing. It still gives us an opportunity. This group right here is our low income Black African American. Okay, and there's 22 students in that group and 13 are there, but you're leading me to my next question. The question, these are just seniors, right? So we also have this for juniors, but you know, obviously we're like, we're close to hitting that goal that we set. And the question becomes, and Gianna Ferreri, it's like I primed her to speak to you tonight to go to this. She said, there are so many opportunities. Dr. Brennan just talked about, do all our students know of the opportunities? She said, you're looking for the right one based on interest and engagement. Remember you asked her, like, is it, she's like, well, when I'm really interested and engaged, AP is not that hard. And that's what we're seeking to find, is the student, the right class for the student. And I loved Gianna's last question, and again, this is something the equity team is working with our teachers on, but she said, our teachers already support students with flexibility. Like, this is what we're trying to do. Help all students see that opportunities exist there. Let them know that their teachers believe in them, and then finding the ways that we can support these students. It's not about, Gianna is awesome, and she talked about the opportunities this has created with her with 4 AP classes. Filling these gaps is about finding the one right AP or dual credit class for the students. It's not putting them in 4 and then providing the accurate or adequate supports for the students and the teachers.
But I like that data, but we need to some kind of way look at how we deal with some of the stress.
Yeah, and that's
all
something.
I'm talking about.
Yes.
The stress. I don't know if it's pressure from parents, pressure from school, or both. You know.
Could be a little bit of.
Because I know when
both.
we did the tests during the pandemic, that was the #1 issue that came out of that was that the kids were, the thought exchange, I think it was that they were stressed. You know.
I think providing more time, more resources are things that help alleviate that a little bit. You heard our students talk about how much they love Compass and how we're trying to continue just to make that even better for our students and our staff. Available resources during study hall as well, and kitchen table opportunities are just a few things that we do. But I think as leaders, it's also our obligation to also think creatively about what we can do more. You know, these numbers, this data is great. It tells a story. And then as we get into that equity pathways report that I mentioned earlier, that's going to provide us to really drill down even more to hear from students as to reasons why they don't enroll in courses, reasons why they do. Same thing from our staff as well. So I think that makes us better when it comes to overall course placement for our students.
So does this start with the counselors?
I would say really our school guidance counselors are doing a great job of meeting with students as early December. Actually go back a little bit further because they were meeting with study hall students in the auditorium to talk about the process, and now have started those individual meetings as well. But it's also important to mention those trusted adults too. The school guidance counselors certainly have a role, but I think another great reason why we have this partnership with EOS is to try to even go beyond that. And that's where those trusted adults come in and because they can be an important part of the process to not only encourage, but then to also support.
Because we talked about potentially adding more counselors, right?
You've talked about that as a board.
Yeah. You know, to help.
And we'll go into
Alleviate the
salary
numbers,
in
yeah.
the second semester, so we'll, come back in January and have a robust discussion about that.
As we know, we have a lot of students at both
Yes.
campuses. Our counselors do a great job of meeting with our students, and that certainly takes a lot of time too.
I would just add, Ms. Johnson, I think it would be, if you agree, a good use of our time at the next curriculum committee meeting to have some of our counselors come in and talk to you about the kinds of conversations they're having, and maybe members of, trusted adults who engage in that. Obviously, we can't have 10, but maybe we could have 2 or 3.
When's our next meeting?
February.
I'll be in town.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Can I get a copy of that data to look at it closer?
Oh, yeah,
It-
sure.
it's
I can
in
include it
board
in your
docs.
Yeah.
update.
It's in board docs.
I can see it, unless it's just a quick.
There are 2 attachments.
You
Yeah.
gotta scroll all the way down.
Oh, okay.
Principal reports.
Good evening, everyone. In our principal's report, you can see all of the great things that are taking place with athletics and activities. Winter sports are well underway, and our activities, we've had so many great events around the holiday season, and giving back to the community and celebrations of our kids. Just a little bit about the update, I figured, with North Campus. We've been there a little bit over a month, and our staff and students are doing a great job of acclimating themselves to the building. We are grateful for all the support that we've gotten from our staff, from the Lincoln Way staff. It's been a blessing to have that option to be there. Thank you to Bill Thompson. He and his staff actually have gotten us to be able to use the kitchen for a limited extent. And so we're able to offer some of our students, hot meal options, just starting this week. So we appreciate Bill and all the hard work that he has been doing with his staff and the building and the kitchen, and trying to create great opportunities and some amenities for our kids. The freshmen are getting ready for their first finals ever, and I will tell you, they're a little anxious because they've never experienced this before. So we have actually had study halls with them to kind of help them prepare, talk through the process, and then actually we are working, several times it's brought up about the schedule. After we've been there for a month, we're kind of reassessing, trying to gain back a couple minutes on the front end and on the back end, and looking at some options for a little bit of a variance for the schedule for second semester. So we'll be talking about that in our administrative meetings, and making some decisions very soon here before we start the second semester.
Dr. McBride earlier highlighted several of the events that we've had just this past fall and now into, well, I guess it's not officially winter yet, though this morning it certainly felt like it. I very much enjoyed my rendition of "'Twas the Night Before Christmas" at the Winter Band Concert. I tried my best to keep up with the Wind Symphony. I think I did average. So we have, and then, looking ahead to January, I know we're between myself and other administrative leaders, Mike Dwyer, Matt Eber, Brian Lessner, I feel like every weekend in January we'll be traveling to either Bloomington, O'Fallon, Rockford, as we will be getting at that time of year where our dance team, our cheerleaders, boys and girls bowling, we'll be getting to that time of year where they'll be competing in the state tournament. But it is an exciting time as we are right now, as Ms. Kishline mentioned earlier. It's semester assessment week. Tomorrow is our last full day of the first semester, and we have final assessments on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Very proud of the work of our students and our staff. It's been a great semester. Of course, with everything that has happened with Central Campus and moving over to Lincoln Way North, we certainly continue to face challenges, but we come together as a school community, and I'm very proud of that, and very proud of the work of our entire school district.
Any questions for us? Well, then on behalf of John and I just want to say thank you for all your support, and we hope that you have a wonderful holiday season with your families. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks.
we recognize Chelsea? We recommend?
I'm sorry,
Are we recognizing Chelsea for her accomplishment?
we will next month.
Well,
Yeah, we'll
next
do a
month.
resolution, yeah.
All right, you can see your information report on the overnight, the field trip.
Yeah, you
There's
just,
3 of those.
overnight field trips, we've got people doing science work coming up in January, Brian Kobe, going to the Illinois Music Educators in Peoria, great conference. We also have, Cheryl Sorensen is taking, LTHS Ski Club to a variety of different places this winter, so Ski Club is back, so that's just for your information.
Next thing we have the maintenance report.
And the maintenance board, Mr. Thompson is here to answer any questions. We already went over, really the ISBE, nutrition, just some of the changes that we're gonna have with districts 89 and 91, so hopefully your question answered. Received an update on the cell tower. They're taking their own sweet time. This was a whole year ago, and we really haven't seen very much action from AT&T, but it's going back and forth. We're working on it. We're still seeing if they're going to actually take advantage of that.
I got a
and
question.
Move that forward,
I'm
yeah.
assuming the city of Lockport approved it, because that's the last I heard, it went to the city.
I do not know if it's made it through the planning commission.
'Cause
I
last
have not seen it on there.
Last we heard about it, it went there.
Yeah, I have not seen it on their agenda. So, and as Bill's report indicates, they've only recently gotten back in touch with us. So, a lot of this we already covered in my report, and then you see your typical things. Some work at East Campus, some work, we had unfortunately a fan coil unit failed, and, as we talked about in the Finance and Facility Committee, destroyed a workstation, and that was Mr. Slager's workstation. So, those things happen even in newer buildings.
You just
Right.
wanted a new laptop.
I think he wants some of his files back. is what he wants.
All right, moving on to consent agenda items. I just need a motion to approve the consent agenda items number 2 to number 8.
So moved. Second.
All right, it's been motioned by Dr. Saw and second by Mr. Travis. Are there any questions? All right, hearing none, roll call.
Travis,
Yeah.
Shimon Rogers,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Shaw,
Yes.
Rivera,
Yes.
Lopez Caniva.
Yes. Right, next I need to have a motion to approve the Director of Student Information Data position.
So moved. Second.
And it's, all right, motion by Dr. Shaw
I have a question.
and motion by Dr. Shimon Rogers. Question? Oh, yes.
This person here, they would be, what would they be reporting to?
They would be reporting to Matt Dusterhoff. And this is some work we've done in the fall, just with the expansion of state reporting we have, sometimes investigations that involve litigation. Sometimes reports that are being requested by staff, which actually require, all of these are increasingly out of Infinite Campus, requiring programming. So like SQL reports, which is actually a programming language. That was
Isn't it
great.
pronounced
I'm
SQL?
I'm telling you, Mrs. Johnston, I'm forgetting myself.
Yeah.
You know, well played.
This
Um,
it wouldn't be under Jennifer Webb, right? Doesn't she do data?
No, that's a really good question. What she does as an assistant principal, and when we really talked this through, we thought Matt Dusterhoff, because so much of this relates to Infinite Campus. All the data is there, and this goes all the way to cybersecurity as well. Nobody's more familiar with Infinite Campus than Matt Dusterhoff. It's a strong relationship. We thought starting out, looking for a slightly more qualified person. The person who left this position, Kathleen Gallagher, really actually got the credentials that we're looking for. And so we're really looking for someone who got that credential level but left for another job and was able to do that. But would report to Matt. We just decided, we thought being in that office would be important, and his knowledge of what we do with Infinite Campus would be critical. That's our student information system for folks.
call.
Navara,
Yes.
Travis,
Yes.
Shimon Rogers,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Shaw,
Yes.
Lopez Caniva.
Yes. All right, do I have a motion to approve the resolution levying taxes for the tax year 2023?
So moved.
And I can second that. All right. We've heard so many other things about this already. I don't think we have any other further questions unless we do. All right, roll call.
Johnson,
Yes.
Navara,
Yes, I want the minutes to reflect that I'm saying yes because I support the abatement.
Shaw,
Yes.
Travis,
Yes.
Shimon Rogers,
Yes.
Lopez Caniva.
Yes. All right, do I have a motion to approve the resolution authorizing permanent interfund transfer and abating debt service levy for the 2019 bonds?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second.
All right, it's been motioned by Mr. Travis and second by Dr. Shaw. Roll call.
Shaw,
Yes.
Navara,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Shimon Rogers,
Yes.
Travis,
Yes.
Lopez Caniva.
Yes. All right, do I have a motion to approve the resolution authorizing permanent interfund transfer and abating debt service levy of the 2017 bonds?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
It's been motioned by Dr. Shaw and second by Mr. Travis. Roll call.
Shimon Rogers,
Yes.
Shaw,
Yes.
Travis,
Yes.
Navara,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Lopez Caniva.
Yes. Next, do I have a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding with DLA for ceiling repairs at Central?
So moved.
Second.
It's been motioned by Dr. Shimon Rogers and second by Dr. Shaw. Any questions?
Johnson,
Yes.
Shaw,
Yes.
Navara,
Yes.
Travis,
Yes.
Shimon Rogers,
Yes.
Lopez Caniva.
Yes. All right, there are no policy updates.
You spared you those this month. We'll be back in January.
Yes.
Um,
Announcements.
Just a few announcements. Winter break begins this Friday. I'm sure Chelsea and Tori are very excited about that. Students will return to campus Tuesday, January 9th. The district is entirely closed December 25th, 26th, 27th, January 1, January. Winter Institute Day, board members are always very keen on this. We're going to start out with a breakfast if you're interested. But we won't have a general session with all of us until 11 o'clock. And so that is Monday, January 8th. A day on, everybody usually takes a day off for MLK Day. We do a thing where we bring people in, we do service, day on. Next board meeting is January 22nd. I did, fail to put the special session on January 11th. My apologies. Curriculum Committee is Monday, February 5th. And then Finance and Facility, Monday, bless you, February 12th.
What time is the special session again?
We can go when you would like to go. We could go 6 o'clock, 6:30.
6 o'clock, please.
Anybody have the special session on January 11th, 6 o'clock?
6:30.
Do you want to split it,
6,
board
6:30.
members at 6:30?
6:30 is fine.
All right,
I just don't want to meet at 4 again for a special session.
got it, okay.
All right. Okay, then a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
All right. It's been motioned by Dr. Shimon Rogers and second by Mr. Travis. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
All right, Happy New Year, have a great holiday.